Year 7, Week 2, Lesson 4, Coraline. Hope you enjoyed last week. Hope you've had a lovely weekend, and I hope you're ready to do some more learning. So just a quick recap, what you need to do: quiet place, whether you're in school or whether you're at home. Make sure you've got all your equipment ready, whether you're on a device on a computer or whether you're working in your exercise book. Got your equipment ready? Pencil case, pen, ruler to underline your title, and you are ready to work hard. Okay, so off we go. Okay, so here's your title, Understanding Chapter 2, and I want you to write the date down as well for whatever date that you are completing this work. Pause the video if you need to do that now. Okay, so just want you to think about what we know so far. We read some of the book last lesson, a little quiz as to what you can remember. I'm going to bring up some statements from chapter 1 and I want you to decide whether or not they are true or false. Okay, so I'm going to bring up the statements first of all. You don't need to write them down. You can just look at them on the screen and you can think, do I think that one's true or do I think that one's false? And then on the next screen the answers will come up. Okay, so number 1, you could write a number down, so you could just put 1 and true or false if you wanted to. That might be better, then you know what you've got. So number 1, Coraline and her parents live in a big mansion all on their own. So write down number 1, just the number, and you can write down next to it true or false. Coraline and her parents live in a big mansion all on their own. Is that true or is that false? Pause the video if you need time to think about it. Number 2 is coming up. Coraline's neighbours are called Miss Spink and Miss Forcible. So write down the number 2 and write down next to it, is that true or false? You choose. Pause the video if you need more time. Number 3 is coming up. Coraline's mother and father work from home all the time. So write down the number 3. Is that true or is that false? Number 4 is coming up. Coraline's other neighbour is training a flea circus. Is that true or is that false? So write down the number 4 and true or false, you decide. Number 5 is coming up. It was a bright sunny day when Coraline went exploring. So write down number 5, and is that true or is that false? Okay, number 6. Coraline wasn't allowed in the drawing room. Is that true or is that false? Write down number 6 and write true or false. Number 7. The door that went nowhere was in the bathroom. Is that true or is that false? One more. Number 8. Coraline had strange dreams after finding the strange door. Is that true or is that false? So you should have 1 to 8 and you should have true or false written next to them. Now before I reveal the answers, next to the ones that you have written false, I want you to write down why you think they are false. In other words, what would make them true? Okay, so which ones have you written false next to? Pause the video and just write next to it, well that's false because it's this instead. Okay, So for example, if it was number 6 you'd written false next to, Coraline wasn't allowed in the drawing room, which room is it that she isn't allowed in instead? Okay, I'm not saying that's the answer, just giving you an example. Alright, so pause the video and do that if you need more time. Okay, so the true or false answers are coming up on the next slide in 3, 2, 1. There we go. So false or true. Number 1 is false. Number 4 is false. Number 5 is false. And number 7 is false. So you can just check your answers, see whether or not yours match mine. Okay? Right, so don't worry if you got some different, don't worry if you got some wrong, but now we need to work out why those blue ones, why those false ones are false. So, why is it false that Coraline and her parents live in a big mansion all on their own? What would you say? What did you get? Can't hear you, sorry. It was a flat. So it was a big mansion, but it was divided up into flats, and they just lived in a little flat in part of it. Okay, so Coraline's other neighbour is training a flea circus. Little fleas that do little tricks. Starting to itch. No, it was a mouse circus. That's far more interesting. That's much better. Little mice that do tricks. Okay, number 5. It was a bright sunny day when Coraline went exploring. I hope you all got that wrong as false, because we looked at the mist, didn't we? It was misty. Right, number 7. The door went nowhere in the bathroom. It was the kitchen. Okay. Okay. So if you need a moment to just jot those answers down, there you go. Pause the video if you need to. Okay. Well done, Year 7. Let's move on to Chapter 2. See what we've read after the little bit of the opening that we read last lesson. The hair over her eyes was limp and wet, and her face felt damp. "Ahoy, Caroline!" called the crazy old man upstairs. "Oh, hello," said Coraline. She could hardly see the old man through the mist. He walked down the steps on the outside of the house that led up past Coraline's front door to the door of his flat. He walked down very slowly. Coraline waited at the bottom of the steps. "The mice do not like the mist," he told her. "It makes their whiskers droop." "I don't like the mist much either," admitted Coraline. The old man leaned down, so close that the bottom of his moustache tickled Coraline's ear. "The mice have a message for you," he whispered. Coraline didn't know what to say. "The message is this: don't go through the door." He paused. "Does that mean anything to you?" "No," said Coraline. The old man shrugged. "They are funny, the mice. They get things wrong. They got your name wrong, you know. They kept saying Coraline, not Caroline, not Caroline at all." He picked up a milk bottle from the bottom step and started back up to his attic flat. Coraline went indoors. Her mother was working in her study. Her mother's study smelt of flowers. "What shall I do?" asked Coraline. "When do you go back to school?" asked her mother. "Next week," said Coraline. Said her mother. "I suppose I shall have to get you new school clothes. Remind me, dear, or else I'll forget." And she went back to typing things on her computer screen. "What shall I do?" repeated Coraline. "Draw something." Her mother passed her a sheet of paper and a ballpoint pen. Coraline tried drawing the mist. After 10 minutes of drawing, she still had a white sheet of paper with mist written on it in one corner in slightly wiggly letters. She grunted and passed it to her mother. Very modern, dear," said Coraline's mother. Coraline crept into the drawing room and tried to open the old door in the corner. It was locked once more. She supposed her mother must have locked it again. She shrugged. Coraline went to see her father. He had his back to the door as he typed. "Go away," he said cheerfully as she walked in. "I'm bored," she said. "Learn how to tap dance," he suggested without turning round. Coraline shook her head. "Why don't you play with me?" she asked. "Busy," he said. "Working," he added. He still hadn't turned around to look at her. "Why don't you go and bother Miss Spink and Miss Forcible?" Coraline put on her coat and pulled up her hood and went out of the house. She went down the steps. She rang the door of Miss Spink and Miss Forcible's flat. Coraline could hear a frenzied woofing as the Scotty dogs ran out into the hall. After a while Miss Spink opened the door. "Oh, it's you, Caroline," she said. "Angus, Hamish, Bruce, down now, lovies. It's only Caroline. Come in, dear. Would you like a cup of tea?" The flat smelt of furniture polish and dogs. "Yes, please," said Coraline. Miss Spink led her into a dusty little room, which she called the parlour. On the walls were black and white photographs of pretty women and theatre programmes in frames. Miss Forcible was sitting in one of the armchairs, knitting hard. Miss Spink poured Coraline a cup of tea in a little pink bone china cup with a saucer and gave her a dry Garibaldi biscuit to go with it. Miss Forcible looked at Miss Spink, picked up her knitting and took a deep breath. "Anyway, April, as I was saying, you still have to admit there's life in the old dog yet," she said. "Miriam, dear, neither of us is young as we were." "Madame Arcati," replied Miss Forcible, "the nurse in Romeo, Lady Bracknell, character parts. They can't retire you from the stage." "Now, Miriam, we agreed," said Miss Spink. Coraline wondered if they'd forgotten she was there. They weren't making much sense. She decided they were having an argument as old and comfortable as an armchair. The kind of argument that no one ever really wins or loses, but which can go on forever if both parties are willing. She sipped her tea. "I'll read the leaves if you want," said Miss Spink to Coraline. "Sorry," said Coraline. "The tea leaves, dear. I'll read your future." Coraline passed Miss Spink her cup. Miss Spink peered short-sightedly at the black tea leaves in the bottom. She pursed her lips. "You know, Caroline," she said after a while, "you are in terrible danger." Miss Forcible snorted and put down her knitting. "Don't be silly, April. Stop scaring the girl. Your eyes are going. Pass me that cup, child." Coraline carried the cup over to Miss Forcible. Miss Forcible looked into it carefully and shook her head and looked into it again. "Oh, dear," she said. "You were right, April. She is in danger." "See, Miriam," said Miss Spink triumphantly, "my eyes are as good as they ever were." "What am I in danger from?" asked Coraline. Mrs. Spink and Forcible stared at her blankly. "It didn't say," said Miss Spink. "Tea leaves aren't reliable for that kind of thing. Not really. They're good for generalities, but not for specifics." "What should I do then?" asked Coraline, who was slightly alarmed by this. "Don't wear green in your dressing room," suggested Miss Spink. "Or mention the Scottish play," added Miss Forcible. Coraline wondered why so few of the adults she had met made any sense. She sometimes wondered who they thought they were talking to. "And be very, very careful," said Miss Spink. She got up from her armchair and went over to the fireplace. On the mantelpiece was a small jar, and Miss Spink took off the top of the jar and began to pull things out of it. There was a tiny china duck, a thimble, a strange brass coin, 2 paper clips and a stone with a hole in it. She passed Coraline the stone with a hole in it. "What's this for?" asked Coraline. The hole went all the way through the middle of the stone. She held it up to the window and looked through it. "It might help," said Miss Spink. "They're good for bad things sometimes." Coraline put on her coat and said good-bye to Mrs. Spink and Forcible and to the dogs and went outside. The mist hung like blindness around the house. She walked slowly to the steps, up to her family's flat and then stopped and looked around. In the mist, it was a ghost world. In danger? Thought Coraline to herself. It sounded exciting. It didn't sound like a bad thing. Not really. Coraline went back up the steps, her fist closed tightly around her new stone. Right, your next task, Year 7, is to see what you've understood in the section that we've just read. You are going to have 2 different types of questions to answer. You are going to get a blue question or a purple question. If you have got a blue question, it is going to require you to write down a quotation from the extract that is at the side of the screen. If you have got a purple question, that type of question means you have to answer the question in a full sentence using your own words. Okay, so I'm going to bring up the questions now for you. So we have question number 1 is a blue question, which means all I want you to do is find a quotation for the answer. So the question is, what does the writer tell us that makes the old man seem strange? Okay, so you can pause the video now if you want to answer one question at a time. But all you need to do for that one is find a quotation from the extract that makes the old man seem strange. Okay, so write down number 1 and your answer with a quotation. If you remember, if you are writing a quotation down, you should be using little quotation marks at the side. Okay? Right, question number 2. Again, it's a blue one. So you are going to be finding a quotation. So they're the words from the extract, not your own words, words that the writer has used. And the question is, what is the message from the old man's mouse circus? Okay, so pause the video if you need to look for that in that page. And again, you are writing your answer with words from the text only, not your own words, with little quotations, little hooks around them, as if you've lifted them out of the text. Okay, and then the last one for this slide is a purple one. So this answer needs to be your own words. Okay, and the question is, what does this message make you think about the old man's mice? So you could start with this makes, that's a K, sorry, this makes me think the mice are what? Okay, that's an E. Sorry, it's not very easy to write. That's an E. That says R. There we go. Sorry for the writing. Okay, so pause the video if you need to have a little bit more time to answer those questions. Nice and neatly. Answers are coming up in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so number 1, what could you have got? So we had, what does the writer tell us? You could have got, up here we have, just put my highlighter on for you. So we've got the crazy old man upstairs. That makes him sound a little bit strange. Okay, could have got that. You might have got, he walked down very slowly, but I don't think that makes him sound very strange really. I just think that makes him sound old. Okay, so I don't think really that is right. Okay, another bit maybe about making him sound strange is where he talks about the mice. They got your name wrong, you know. They kept saying Coraline. Well, her name is Coraline. So it seems strange because he says the mice got your name wrong. And they didn't. The mice got her name right. He keeps getting her name wrong. Okay, but the best answer is this one up here, the crazy old man. Okay, right. Question number 2. What is a message from the old man's mouse circus? Here we go. Don't go through the door. And if someone tells you to not go through a door, what are you going to do? You're going to go through the door, aren't you? Of course you are. Okay, so check your answers for those. See if you got them right. Tick them if you did, well done. If you didn't, just have a look, check where you went wrong. Okay, number 3 was a tricky one. So number 3 was stretching you because you had to put it into your own words. The question was, what does this make you think about the old man's mice? So you need to have a look at mine and see if yours is similar to mine. It's never going to be word for word. So I put, it makes me think the mice know something about what's on the other side. So don't go through the door. Why? Why are they telling her not to go through? They must know what's on the other side. It makes them sound like special mice. Maybe they might be able to help Coraline if she gets into difficulty or trouble. You might have something completely different, or you might have something a little bit similar. You've probably worded it different to mine. That's fine. But have a look at mine. See if you've got anything similar to mine. If you want to improve yours with anything I've written, go for it. Okay, pause the video if you need to, because I'm going to move on to the next set of questions. There is just one more slide with some more questions on Year 7. Okay. Right, so same tack. We've got purple and blue questions. So question number 4. 3 pieces of advice that Miss Spink and Miss Forcible tell Coraline. So it's a new piece of the story. So you need to look at the extract from the book. Can you spot what 3 pieces of advice Miss Spink and Miss Forcible tell Coraline? And this is after they've read her tea leaves. Okay, so pause the video for you to give time to answer that question. Okay, question number 5. Again, a quotation you are looking for. So remember that you are writing little quotation marks around them. What things are in the jar on the mantelpiece? And the mantelpiece is a little shelf that you have above your fireplace. You sometimes put a clock on it or pictures on it. I've got pictures on my mantelpiece. Okay, so pause the video to answer that question. There's 4 questions on this page. Okay, 7 questions in total. Question number 6. Oh, we've done similes and metaphors last lesson. So we need to look for a simile. You are just writing the simile down. Simile from the page that's on the screen with quotation marks around it. What simile does the writer use? You've got to remember how a writer uses a simile. What makes a simile different to a metaphor? Pause the video if you need to do that now. Okay, purple question. Full sentence in your own words, trying to explain your idea as much as possible. What does the simile make us think about the mist? Now, if your simile isn't anything to do with a mist, you're going to just need to check again. Okay, because you might have got it wrong. Okay, remember it's got to have like or as in it. Alright, so I'll just pause the video and answer number 7 in your own words in full sentences before I come up with some answers for you to check. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next slide. in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so what did we get? 3 pieces of advice. Don't wear green in your dressing room. Up here. Don't mention the Scottish play. You'll be studying the Scottish play next year in year 8. I wonder if any of you know which one it is. I'm not going to give it away. Bonus points if you write that down in your answer and you upload it onto Teams. Tell your teacher what the Scottish play is. Oh, you'll get some bonus points for that. And third one, be very, very careful. There you go. Well done if you got all 3 of those. Good job. Pause the video if you need to correct any of your answers. Okay, question number 5. What things are in the jar on the mantelpiece? Oh, it's a very strange jar. We've got these things here. Tiny china duck, a thimble. Thimble is something you put over your thumb to stop you pricking it when you're sewing. My grandma had lots of thimbles. Strange little brass coin, 2 paper clips and a stone with a hole in it. Strange things to have in a jar on your mantelpiece, but there you go. That's Miss Spink and Miss Forcible for you. Okay, let's see if you got all those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. Well, 6 technically, if you've got 2 paper clips. The simile. Did you spot the simile? The mist hung like blindness. And how do we know it's a simile? Because we're comparing the mist to something else, using the word like or as. Okay, it's not the mist was blindness, but it was like blindness. Okay, all right, and then the tricky question, number 7, was what does it tell us? If you're describing it as blindness, why? That's a really strange thing to compare something to. So let's see what I wrote and let's see if you can compare yours to mine. So I said, the simile makes me think the mist is really thick because it's compared to blindness. So I've said it's really thick. So the mist must be really thick. It's not a fine mist, it's a really thick, really foggy. It must mean that Coraline really can't see where she's going. Okay, so something about not being able to see. Also, if it's hanging, so it's hanging mist, it's not moving. You might not have picked up that, but it must be really heavy as well. It's like a curtain she's got to go through or go behind, as if it's hiding something, as if something is hidden. You might have that it's mysterious, you might have that it's scary, you might have that it's frightening, you might have that she's got to feel her way through it. You might have, lots of different things to mine, but see what your ideas are like compared to mine, okay? And see if you can think if you're in the same sort of ballpark as my ideas, year 7, okay? Well done. Pause the video if you need to improve your answers or just check them a little bit more. Excellent, year 7. Really well done. Okay, so that is the end of today's lesson. Great job. We're going to move on and look at something a little bit more difficult from a simile next lesson, and then read a little bit more of the novel. I hope you're enjoying it. I hope you're not having any strange dreams from those mice. Okay, great job, work hard and stay safe. See you next lesson.